Welcome. Welcome to Life After Work. I'm your host, Dr. Clark Gaither. Life After Work is the source, the tool, the solution for redesigning and transforming your life when your life's work, for whatever reason, has come to an end. In this episode, I want to briefly go over the major upside of stopping work altogether or retiring, but I want to spend a little more time on the downside that a lot of people fail to consider. Now, I'm not advocating that you work until you die, but clearly some people should probably never retire because they miss working. And it was a source of personal satisfaction for them and joy and pleasure. But they stopped and retired because that's what everybody does. But then once they do, they sort of feel lost. And those people maybe need to keep working. Leland Kaiser of the Kaiser Institute once said, we probably should never retire. We should probably just go from one career to the next. Studies have shown that people who work well into their 60s, 70s, and even 80s do better on many metrics, including how long they live and several measures of their health. So some people probably shouldn't retire, but for those that do, they should know that, yeah, there's a definite upside to retiring, but there are also some downsides. And I think folks should be aware of those so that they can prepare for them and thereby avoid them. So, we spend years, maybe decades, thinking about retirement and what we'll do once we retire. We think, wow, I'll take that big trip I've always wanted to take. Or I'll take up gardening or golf. Or perhaps I'll learn to play an instrument. Or learn a second language. Or maybe do some of those projects around the house I've been putting off. I mean, you can make a list a mile long of what you might do in your retirement. And it's fun to think about those things. But we tend to think about the positive aspects of retirement and not necessarily the downside of retiring. Once folks do retire, there is an initial sense of freedom and relief that's probably indescribable for most people. They feel, wow, I don't have to punch the clock anymore. I don't have to get in my car and commute. I don't have to deal with office politics. I don't have to deal with that toxic boss or that toxic work environment. And I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, for as long as I want. And that's great. It's a great feeling. But for a lot of people, after weeks or months, the luster of that sense of freedom and relief begins to wear off. In fact, a lot of people start to feel down, even depressed or anxious. They feel depressed because sometimes they lose their sense of purpose. There's no longer the fulfillment or intrinsic reward that they once got from working. They start to feel isolated because they no longer have a connection with the people that they used to work with. And they begin to feel a sense of loneliness. And none of those are particularly comfortable feelings to have, especially the severe symptoms of depression and anxiety. Most of those folks quit working thinking only of the positive aspects of retirement. They didn't give much thought to what they were specifically going to do once they retired. The structure of having to get up every day and go to work and arrive on time and get things done and then go back home at quitting time keeps people active. It keeps people engaged and the activities of daily living and life. And when that goes away, people may feel a bit directionless. So it's important to think about precisely what you're going to do in retirement and then put it on some sort of structure. I know a lot of people don't like hearing this, but getting up at the same time every day, going to bed at the same time every evening provides a sense of structure. A lot of people want to sleep in, but the tendency is you sleep in later and later and later, and then you stay up later and later each night, and people can get their entire days and nights switched around. It's because they don't have the structure that they once had with the job. Also, people may feel anxious because they have all this time and they don't know what to do with it because they didn't plan for having all of that time. Or they may feel anxious because where money was no concern when they had an income, now they're living on their retirement savings or perhaps just Social Security. And so now there are economic worries that they didn't used to have when they actually had a paycheck coming in. So I think it's important that people begin to plan for what they will do in retirement more and make more firm plans. Continue to have some sort of structure to your life. And also, I think it's important to recognize for some people, if you feel you've made a mistake and stopping work or retiring, it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to go back to work. Now, we go through different seasons in our life. I'm certainly in a season that was different than the season of my life when I was in my 20s or 30s. When I was in my early 30s, I was in residency training, a family practice residency program. And the first year of training, we were putting in somewhere around 340 hours a month, which is almost double what most people work in a month. And at that time, at that age, I could do that standing on my head, holding my breath. It seemed easy in a way. Yeah, it was difficult, and yeah, I missed sleep. But at the same time, everything we were seeing and doing was exciting. And so it was fun. I look back fondly on my residency training. But I'll be 70 this year, and I am not in the same season of life as now that I was then. Working 340 hours in a month makes absolutely no sense at my age, and I wouldn't do it. So if people feel they've made a mistake and would like to go back to work, you don't have to go back to the same intense labor that you may have done when you were working, since you are in a different season of your life. Look for work that's of a slower pace, less demanding, less time-consuming, but still gives you an outlet to use your natural set of talents and abilities and experiences in a way that's personally satisfying to you while serving others. Now, that's the sweet spot. That's the sweet spot that everybody, I think, would like to be in. So, take-home message overall is, yes, think about the positive aspects of retirement and how your life will change. But also plan. Plan exactly what you're going to do. I mean, sketch it all out. Write out your preferred future. Sit down on a table with a pen or a pencil and some paper and design your preferred future in retirement or after you stop working. What's it going to look like? And provide some structure to those activities. continue to set goals and work toward them, because that's how you avoid the loss of a sense of purpose, a sense of loss of fulfillment, loss of satisfaction, and loss of happiness. That's the best way to avoid those losses. To folks who are feeling depressed, chronically down or depressed in retirement, chronic, by the way, is if a condition lasts longer than 6 weeks, we say it has become chronic. Some conditions 3 months, but most conditions, they last 6 weeks or longer, it's chronic. And if you've been depressed chronically longer than 6 weeks, you should talk to your healthcare provider or mental health counselor. You know, as a primary care physician, if somebody, when I was in clinical medicine, if somebody cut themselves or had an acute injury, they would run right into the office. They wouldn't wait. But it's different for the emotional problems that people face. They tend to put off going and seeking help, even though their symptoms are lingering or perhaps getting worse. There is a tool online that you can use, and I'll provide a link in the description box below, called a PHQ9, a Patient Health Questionnaire-9. And it is a screening tool for depression. And you can self-assess with this tool. And the link I'm going to provide shows you how to score the screening tool. And it will tell you if you're less likely or at low risk of having a active major clinical depression, or if you're at moderate risk, or if you're at high risk, if you're actually clinically depressed. So it's a useful tool that people can use it at home to self-assess as to whether or not they're depressed. Now, it's a screening tool. If you score high on that, it doesn't necessarily mean with 100% accuracy that you're clinically depressed. It's just a good indication that you might be. For that, I would seek help from your primary care physician or from a mental health provider. But don't sit on your feelings if they've been lasting more than 6 weeks. It's probably time to talk to someone about what you're feeling. There's also a tool for generalized anxiety disorder called the GAD-7, the GAD-7. I'll also put a link to that in the description box. And it's a simple screening tool to see if you're suffering from generalized anxiety disorder. If you use the screening tool and you're fairly honest in your self-assessment, and it says you're at moderate or high risk of being of having a generalized anxiety disorder, then again, I would seek help from your primary care physician or a mental health counselor. Don't sit with those feelings if they've been lasting more than 6 weeks. It's probably time to talk to someone about that. So I hope that was some helpful information. Again, it's fun to think about retirement and what you're going to do, but also avoid the downside by doing some planning, and so you can have a great retirement and enjoy those, quote, golden years, end quote, that everyone talks about. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe so that you will get notified as soon as new content is released. Also, Life After Work publishes a free newsletter that has more information than I'll be sharing on this channel. You can find that at, you can sign up for that newsletter at lifeafterwork.co. There will be a link in the description box below. And if you think somebody could benefit from this video, please share it with them, and perhaps it will help them. Until next time.